Right then, Blade's Army. If you thought the last few days at Bramall Lane were intense, hold on to your seats, because what's just exploded around our club in the last few hours will leave every Blade absolutely gobsmacked. Three completely different situations are revolutionizing Sheffield United behind the scenes at this very moment, and I guarantee you won't believe what's happening. When was the last time you felt the club was genuinely progressing? That our Blades were finally showing the spirit of the red and white army we know and love, because after today, everything's changed. And when I say everything, I'm talking about a transformation that spans from the pitch to the boardroom, involving decisions that could define our Sheffield United's future for years to come. If you're proper Blades, smash that like button now, because what I'm about to reveal ranges from the first epic victory of the season to changes that could define our next decade. Three bombshells that will make you understand why supporting Sheffield United is a pure emotional roller coaster, but one that ultimately always rewards us with magical moments like the ones you're about to discover today. Are you prepared for a complete emotional journey? Because we're going through relief, euphoria, in-depth technical analysis, and genuine hope for the future. Nearly 2 decades following this club, and I can guarantee that days like today are rare, when everything seems to align and we start seeing clear signs that Sheffield United is finding its way back to greatness. The first topic will have you jumping out of your chairs with joy after weeks of frustration. The second will show exactly where we stand as a team and which players are truly delivering when the pressure's on. And the third will open a horizon of possibilities that could completely transform our defense and our ambitions for the second half of the season. Stay with me until the end, because every minute of this video contains information that every Blade supporter needs to know. And fair warning, prepare your hearts, because after 7 consecutive defeats, what's happened in the last few hours proves our team has soul, has character, and most importantly, has that Steel City identity running strong through every player's veins. Let's start with the news that will make every Blade's heart explode with joy, because after a start to the season that felt like an endless nightmare, our Blades have finally achieved what we were all desperately waiting for: the first victory of the season. After 7 consecutive defeats that tested the patience, faith, and love of every Blade supporter, after Chris Wilder returned home to face the most intense pressure of his career, after questions about whether this team had heart and soul, our Warriors went to the Castle Stadium and secured a victory worth far more than 3 points in the table. Sheffield United 1-0 Oxford United, a simple scoreline that tells a story of resilience, determination, and most importantly of a club that refuses to give up on its dreams. Callum O'Hare, in the 65th minute of the second half, received a cross from Chidozie Ogbein down the right flank, turned brilliantly in the box, and slotted the ball into the bottom left corner, unleashing an explosion of joy that echoed from Oxfordshire all the way to the streets of Sheffield. And when I say it was special, I need you to understand the complete context of this victory. It was 7 straight defeats in the championship, 7 matches where we watched our team creating chances, fighting, but always leaving the pitch with 0 points, and that feeling that something was missing. The pressure on Chris Wilder was immense, returning home to his beloved club, only to find a team in a deep crisis of confidence and results. But here's what truly moves me about this victory. The way it was achieved shows these players have mettle, have winning mentality, and most importantly, quickly absorb the ideas of the manager who knows Sheffield United's soul better than anyone in the world. Wilder named the same team that had lost to Charlton Athletic, showing faith in his players, and the response came emphatically. The match started cautiously, typical of teams desperately needing a positive result. Oxford United were more dangerous in the first 20 minutes, creating some half chances, but our defense, finally organized, managed to maintain the solidity we hadn't seen for ages. Philip Crasta from Oxford even showed some interesting play, but our Blades were determined not to give away easy spaces. The first clear chance of the match was actually ours in the 40th minute of the first half. Gustavo Hammer, always with that privileged vision, found Tyrese Campbell inside the box, and the striker struck first time, but the ball went narrowly wide. It was a sign we were growing into the game, creating opportunities and, crucially, showing courage to attack despite all the pressure to secure that first victory. The second half began with our team more purposeful, more balanced, playing with the confidence that had been missing in previous matches. And then came the magical moment that will be etched in the memory of every Blade who's followed this season from the start. Chidozie Ogbein burst down the right wing, crossed the ball into the area, And there was Callum O'Hare, our Irish midfielder, to finish with class into the left corner. The celebration was special. The away support, who had traveled to Oxford even after 7 consecutive defeats, erupted in joy. It was much more than a goal. It was confirmation that this team hadn't given up, that Chris Wilder still had the magic formula to get the best out of these players, and most importantly, that the Blades were back in the fight. But what's most impressive is that it wasn't just a lucky victory. We controlled the match after taking the lead, maintained our defensive organization, and most importantly, we achieved our first clean sheet of the season. This shows Wilder didn't just solve the immediate attacking problem, but primarily organized a defense that had been a nightmare in previous matches. Oxford United did try to press at the end, with Greg Lee even hitting the woodwork in stoppage time, but our Blades showed maturity to hold onto the result. That's what was missing: mentality, organization, and most importantly the confidence that this team can compete with any opponent. When at its best, the victory over Oxford United wasn't just about 3 points in the table. It was about recovering the soul, the identity, and the belief that Sheffield United can be protagonists in the championship again. Can you see the difference? In previous matches, even when creating some chances, you could always sense something was missing that final determination, that coolness to decide games, that defensive solidity that characterized our best moments in recent history. Against Oxford, all of that returned at once, as if Chris Wilder had found the right key to unlock this group's potential. And look at the perfect timing for this first victory, just when supporters were starting to question whether the decision to bring Wilder back had been right. Just when the players most needed to prove their worth, comes a complete performance that reminds everyone why this club is respected throughout English football. It was a victory built with sweat, tactical intelligence, and most importantly, with that pride in wearing the Blades shirt that sometimes seemed lost at the start of the season. Most impressive is how every player on the pitch seemed to understand perfectly their role in Wilder's strategy. Compact defense, midfield working both in pressing and creation, and attack being efficient at the right moments. This is the recipe we know. This is the way of playing that took Sheffield United to the Premier League and competing on equal terms with England's best teams. But the situation doesn't stop there, because now we have complete details of how each of our players performed in this historic victory, and the individual ratings reveal much about where we are as a team and where we can go from here. Callum O'Hare was simply sensational, a thoroughly deserved 8/10 rating. The Irish midfielder didn't just score the winning goal, but commanded the center of the park with a class, intelligence, and presence we hadn't seen at Sheffield United for ages. O'Hare showed exactly why Chris Wilder was so insistent on having him in the squad, why supporters had placed so much hope in him since the start of the season. Let's talk about that goal in more detail, because it was much more than a fortunate finish. O'Hare positioned himself perfectly in the box, anticipated Chidozie Ogbene's cross, controlled the ball calmly even under pressure from Oxford's defense, and finished with surgical precision into the bottom left corner. It was the type of goal that separates great players from ordinary ones, the ability to decide in crucial moments when all the pressure is on your shoulders. But it wasn't just the goal that impressed. Throughout the 90 minutes, O'Hare showed variety in his play, created opportunities for teammates, helped with pressing when necessary, and most importantly demonstrated that leadership personality every team needs. In the final moments, when Oxford were trying to press for an equalizer, it was he who kept calm, held the ball at the right times, and helped the team manage the advantage. While O'Hare shone, we had one player who clearly wasn't at his best, receiving just 4/10 in the specialist press ratings. I won't mention names because every player has a right to off days, but this discrepancy shows something important. We still have inconsistencies to resolve in the squad. There are still players who need to raise their level for the team to function more regularly. What's most impressive is how Chris Wilder managed to organize this team defensively. After conceding goals consistently in the season's opening matches, after seeing our defense being breached easily by opponents who, in theory, shouldn't create so many opportunities, seeing our defensive system functioning solidly was like massive relief for any Blade supporter. The 4-3-1 formation implemented by Wilder proved perfect for this group of players. Japhet Tanganga and Mark McGuinness formed a balanced center-back partnership, with McGuinness even taking the captain's armband in just his third appearance for the club, a sign that Wilder recognizes in him the leadership qualities the team needs at this moment. At full-back, we saw a much more consistent performance than we'd seen in previous matches. The midfield, with two holding players providing support, managed to balance defensive and attacking duties in a way we hadn't seen since Wilder's last spell at the club. And in attack, even with Tyrese Campbell missing the clear chance in the first half, the team created enough situations to deserve victory. Speaking of Campbell, it's worth highlighting that his missed opportunities weren't through lack of effort or movement. The striker was well positioned, created chances for himself and teammates, but just lacked that final coolness that makes the difference between a good performance and an exceptional one. These are details that, with more matches and confidence, will certainly be resolved. Gustavo Hammer, our Brazilian midfielder, once again showed why he's considered one of Sheffield United's main weapons. The vision to find Campbell for the clear first half chance was perfect, and throughout the match he demonstrated the technical quality and tactical intelligence that make him a standout player in the championship. The collective performance was even more impressive when we consider the psychological context of the match. After 7 consecutive defeats, playing away from home, with all the pressure to secure the first victory of the season, could have resulted in a tense, anxious team making individual errors that cost points. But our Blades showed emotional maturity, kept calm in decisive moments, and executed the tactical plan with discipline and intelligence. The timing of this couldn't be more perfect, just when doubts were starting to emerge about Wilder's ability to repeat his previous successes at Sheffield United. Just when some players were being questioned by supporters, comes a performance that reminds everyone why this team has potential to fight for big things this season. Now, for something that will have you dreaming of incredible possibilities for our Sheffield United's near future. While we celebrate this first victory of the season, exclusive Sky Sports news is completely stirring the clubs behind the scenes and could represent exactly what we needed to transform our defense from a constant source of worry into a genuine strength. Harry Souter could be coming home. The 26-year-old Australian centre-back, who was absolutely fundamental in our playoff campaign last season, is being touted for a return from Leicester City as early as the next January transfer window. And Lee Henry, Sky Sports commentator and EFL expert, has confirmed talks are happening behind the scenes. Let's remember why Souter is so important to Sheffield United. During his 21 matches last season, before the serious Achilles injury that ended his participation in the Wembley final against Sunderland, our defense conceded just 10 goals. 10 goals in 21 matches. To give you a sense of the impact, that represents an average of less than 0.5 goals conceded per match with him on the pitch. Souter's presence wasn't just about defensive numbers. The Australian centre-back brought natural leadership to the defensive sector, an organizational ability that extended throughout the team, and most importantly, that security that allows the rest of the team to play with more offensive freedom. When you have confidence in your defense, when you know the back line is solid, the whole team flows better. The current situation at Leicester City completely favors a possible deal. Souter has made just 16 appearances for the Foxes since his £15 million transfer in January 2023, with much of that period lost to injuries. Now, with Leicester back in the Premier League, the Australian centre-back isn't getting space in the starting 11 and needs match minutes to maintain his fitness and match rhythm. Lee Henry was straight to the point in his exclusive analysis. I've always been a fan of Harry Souter. He's got experience and obviously isn't getting game time. In January, I think there'll be lots of changes at Sheffield United, and Harry Souter would be a good player to have. These words from an expert who's followed the championship for decades carry significant weight. But here comes the even more interesting part of Henry's statement. He predicts lots of changes at Sheffield United for the January window. This suggests our board isn't just thinking of Souter as an isolated signing, but rather as part of a broader squad overhaul, a strategy to correct the problems identified at the start of this season. Just imagine Souter partnering Mark McGuinness at the heart of our defense. McGuinness has already shown leadership qualities by being chosen as captain by Wilder, has good distribution and shows personality for big matches. Souter would bring international experience, having participated in the 2022 World Cup for Australia, plus familiarity with Wilder's tactical system and championship demands. Souter's height -198 meters would also be a valuable addition for defensive headers, an area where we sometimes struggle. In attack, from set pieces, we'd have an extra weapon that could make the difference in tight matches. These apparently small details often decide entire seasons. From a financial perspective, the operation would make sense for all parties involved. Leicester need to monetize an investment that isn't bearing expected fruit. Souter needs match minutes not to lose his place in the Australian national team, and Sheffield United would gain a player who has already proven his worth in the Championship and knows Chris Wilder's working philosophy perfectly. The timing issue is also fascinating. Wilder has publicly admitted the current squad is more than complete when all players are available, but this doesn't mean there's no room for qualitative improvements. Bringing Souter wouldn't just be about adding another player. It would be about raising the technical and tactical level of the defensive sector. Balanced realism here. There's still a long way until January. Much could change between now and the transfer window reopening, but having this prospect on the horizon, knowing the board is thinking strategically about how to strengthen the squad, keeps hope alive that even better days are coming for the Blades. Souter's complete recovery from the Achilles injury is another factor to consider. Leicester have informed that he's still working to reach peak fitness, but the fact he's being called up regularly for training and is part of the registered 25-man squad suggests his medical condition is no longer a concern for us supporters. The possibility of Souter's return represents much more than just defensive reinforcement. It represents the possibility of correcting one of last season's biggest frustrations, seeing a crucial player get injured precisely in the playoff final, where we were so close to returning to the Premier League. Connect the dots with me, Blades Army. First victory of the season secured with grit and tactical organization. Individual performances showing this squad's real potential when confident, and the prospect of quality reinforcements arriving in January. Two correct deficiencies identified at the season's start. This isn't coincidence. It's a club finding its identity again. Chris Wilder returns home and within just a few matches already shows he knows Sheffield United's soul better than anyone in English football. The way he organized the defense against Oxford, how he managed to extract the best from Callum O'Hare, how he kept the team balanced even under all the pressure to secure the first victory. All of this proves the decision to bring the manager back was absolutely right. O'Hare shining at the most important moment. Solid defense for the first time this season. Gustavo Hammer showing technical quality. And now the possibility of Harry Souter returning to complete this defensive jigsaw. In 6 months, we could be looking at a completely transformed Sheffield United, not just in table results, but in mentality, confidence, ambition. Can you see the pattern for me? Each piece is gradually falling into place. The victory over Oxford wasn't luck, it was the result of tactical work. Players who finally understood their roles in the system. A manager who knows exactly how to extract the maximum from this group. And with Souter potentially returning, we'd have the final element that was missing from our playoff campaign last season. This is the essence of the Blades we've always known. Resilient, determined, capable of rising from the most difficult moments and surprising when least expected. 7 consecutive defeats seemed like the end of the world, but a simple victory, secured with sweat and determination in the no-man's land that is an away match, reminds us why we love this century-old club. Steel City doesn't accept mediocrity. The Red and White Army doesn't give up on its dreams. And Sheffield United, even in the darkest moments, always finds a way to show it has heart, has soul, and most importantly has the winning DNA built over decades of glorious history. But let's go beyond romanticism and speak of concrete prospects. With Wilder in charge, with players like O'Hare showing their maximum potential, with a defense that's finally found organization, and with the possibility of qualified reinforcements arriving in January, this Sheffield United could well surprise in the season's second half. The Championship is an unpredictable league, where momentum changes can completely transform a season's trajectory. Teams that start poorly can end up fighting for playoffs. We've seen this happen several times in the league's history, and with the experience our players gained in last season's campaign, with the tactical knowledge Wilder brings, we have all the necessary ingredients for a spectacular recovery. Think about what having Harry Souter back represents. It's not just about improving the defense, it's about having a player who knows playoff pressure, who was there at the Wembley final, who knows exactly what's needed to reach the highest level of English football. That experience is invaluable for a group still learning to deal with expectations and pressures. The collective mentality is also changing visibly. The celebration after the goal against Oxford, how players supported each other during the match's most difficult moments, the determination shown to maintain the result in the final minutes. All of this indicates a group developing the winning mentality necessary to compete at the highest level. But we can't forget our supporters. The Red and White Army who traveled to Oxford even after 7 consecutive defeats, who backed the team from first to last minute, who celebrated that goal as if it were a trophy. That's the force that drives this club. That's the energy that makes the difference in decisive moments. Where we look at the complete picture, experienced and victorious manager, players starting to show their real potential, finally organized defense, promising prospects for January, and supporters who never abandon the team. It's clear Sheffield United is building the foundations for something special. The message is clear and definitive. Trust the process being implemented. Support the players giving their all on the pitch. Believe Chris Wilder has the right formula to extract the maximum from this group. And most importantly, keep alive the hope that Sheffield United is returning to where it always belonged, fighting for big things, competing on equal terms with any opponent. Because being a Blade means exactly that. Standing together in difficult moments, exploding with joy when glory finally comes, and never, ever giving up on our dreams of seeing this century-old club shine again on the national and international stage. The future is promising. Blades Army, Steel City rising again.